8 chairs surrounding a table crafted for joy. 1 plate, 1 woman. 20 winters of snowfall on a house that had forgotten warmth. Elena Thorne carved the turkey alone. Same ritual every year. Same blade her mother used. Handle polished smooth by 3 generations of palms that understood how to create things built to endure. The dining hall could accommodate 12 guests. She designed it that way back when dreaming big felt possible. Crystal goblets captured the firelight. Porcelain plates from Chicago purchased the year the railroad arrived. A banquet fit for royalty or kin or any soul at all. She occupied the head position. The remaining 7 chairs contained nothing but emptiness. Beyond the windows, November's first snowfall drifted past glass that mirrored only her solitary figure. Within, the hearth crackled and sparked, flooding the space with heat that couldn't touch the frozen hollow in her heart. Her palm moved toward her vest pocket. Fingers traced the outline there. Tiny, known, smoothed by 20 years of constant contact. She didn't retrieve it. Hadn't in ages. Simply required the assurance it remained. The candles along the table flickered in some breeze she couldn't detect. She stared at the seat opposite her, the one that had stayed vacant always, not once occupied. Elena Thorne extinguished the candles. She consumed her Thanksgiving meal in darkness because illumination made the vacant seats unbearable. 7 miles of icy desolation between a woman possessing everything and youngsters owning nothing. Elena Thorne hadn't intended to travel that route, but her horse understood the path. Dawn arrived slate-gray and harsh, the sort of chill that seeped into marrow and lingered like an uninvited visitor. Elena guided her chestnut mare along the main trail toward Cold Ridge, breath misting in the atmosphere, convincing herself she required provisions from the mercantile, convincing herself that justified leaving the ranch. Rowan rode beside her, wrapped in his weathered duster fastened to the collar, damaged knees rigid in the stirrup. 3 decades the man had labored for Elena, and he remained incapable of silencing his thoughts. Heard news in town yesterday, Rowan mentioned, gaze forward. Don't remember inquiring. The children's home is struggling. The mission house, Ms. Reeves has been diluting stew so thoroughly you could glimpse through it. Rowan expelled into the snow. Those kids had nothing for Thanksgiving. Not a morsel. Elena fixed her attention on the trail. Not my responsibility. You certain about that? They traveled without speaking. The Coldridge Mission House occupied a quarter-mile off the principal road. A repurposed chapel structure with whitewashed exterior fading to ash from abandonment. Sparse smoke climbed from the chimney. Insufficient for a structure that size. For a morning this frigid. Elena's mare decelerated without rein pressure. Boss. I'm aware. She remained mounted, observing that pathetic wisp of smoke. 23 children sheltered there, she'd learned. 23 kids without mothers, without fathers, without anyone to carve them poultry or ignite candles they'd need to extinguish. She contemplated her table. 8 chairs, 1 plate. Damnation, she whispered and directed the mare toward the orphanage. The entrance opened before her knock. Catherine Reeves appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a shawl that had survived better generations. Her complexion the shade of aged paper and equally frail. She regarded Elena the way a woman regards a debt collector. Ms. Thorne? Not an inquiry. Everyone throughout the territory recognized her face. Come to observe how others survive. Come to discover what you require. What we require. She released a laugh, though devoid of amusement. What we require is divine intervention, Ms. Thorne. What we require is individuals who remain beyond the time necessary to soothe their guilt. But I'll accept whatever's offered. She moved aside. Elena entered. The cold within exceeded the cold without. At minimum outside, it made sense. Here, children clustered together, distributing blankets, distributing warmth. A boy barely 6 years pressed against an older girl. both observing Elena with gazes too aged for their years. "Kitchen's through here," Catherine stated, "if that's what you'd name it." Elena followed her down a confined corridor where wallpaper separated in extended ribbons, past a chamber where children occupied the floor lacking adequate seating, into a kitchen emanating no scent whatsoever. Barren shelves bordered the walls. A solitary pot rested on the stove. Vapor ascending from something watery and colorless. "Potato broth," Catherine stated. "With a touch of salt. That's the morning meal. That's midday. That's evening too, if we're being truthful." Elena remained wordless. "Incapable. 23 children, Miss Thorne. Youngest is 4. Eldest is 14. Half possess coughs that won't cease. The remaining half will develop them by Christmas." She pivoted to confront her. "So, what do we require?" "Everything. What shall we receive?" "Whatever scraps tumble from wealthy women's tables." "I'm not here offering scraps." "Then what brings you?" Before Elena could respond, a voice emerged behind her. "You have sorrowful eyes." She turned. A girl occupied the doorway. Petite, slender, hair the shade of copper. Dress mended so frequently it was primarily patches. She regarded Elena the way nobody had regarded her in 20 years. Directly through. As if her wealth and her property and her reputation didn't signify anything. "Lily Grace," Catherine stated, caution in her tone. "Don't trouble Miss Thorne." "I'm not troubling her. I'm merely observing." The girl, Lily Grace, angled her head. "You have sorrowful eyes like you misplaced something and can't recall its location." Elena felt the words strike her somewhere beneath the ribs. Her palm went to her pocket reflexively. "Lily Grace, go assist with the younger ones." "Yes." But the girl remained motionless. She continued observing Elena. "You planning to assist us, or you merely going to survey and depart like the others?" "Lily Grace." "I'm going." She finally rotated and walked back along the corridor, but she glanced over her shoulder once. "I hope you remain." "We haven't had anyone remain in quite some time." Then she vanished. Elena stood there, hand still in her pocket, fingers encircling the small wooden form she'd carried for 2 decades. Catherine observed her. "She possesses a talent for perceiving things, that one. Lost her mother at 5. Never knew her father. Still trusts the goodness in people." She paused. "I keep anticipating the world to eliminate it from her. Hasn't occurred yet." "How old is she?" 9. 10 in February. If we're still operating by then." Elena withdrew her hand from her pocket. "Empty. I'll return tomorrow with a wagon." "Loaded wagon." Catherine's expression remained unchanged. "People declare numerous things, Miss Thorne." "I'm not people." She departed without glancing back. Couldn't glance back. If she did, she might glimpse that girl again. And those eyes that perceived too much. And she wasn't prepared for that. Might never be prepared. Rowan was waiting beside the horses, stamping his boots against the cold. He examined Elena's face once and nodded. "Got to you, didn't she?" "Just a child. Children perceive what we conceal. That's why we don't favor them much." Rowan handed her the reins. "So, what's the strategy, boss?" Elena mounted, looked back at the orphanage once more. In the window, a small silhouette watched her. Copper hair capturing what minimal light existed. "We're going to fill a wagon," she stated. "Flour, salt, pork, apples, whatever we possess in the storehouse that isn't secured down. That's considerable charity for a woman who isn't concerned." "Quiet, Rowan." "Yes." But the old foreman was grinning as they rode away. Behind them, Lily Grace pressed her palm to the frigid glass and watched the two figures disappear into the ashen morning. Her breath fogged the window. She traced a small heart in the condensation before it vanished. "She's returning," she whispered to no one. "I can sense it." A wagon laden with flour, salt pork, and apples rolled into Coldridge Mission like an answered prayer nobody remembered requesting. The children didn't celebrate. They were too famished to believe it was genuine. The wagon groaned under the mass of more provisions than the orphanage had witnessed in 6 months. Elena drove it herself, Rowan riding alongside with 2 ranch workers, transporting a second cart loaded with firewood and blankets. The sky suspended low and pale, threatening snow that wouldn't arrive till nightfall. Catherine Reeves stood on the porch, arms folded, watching them advance like she was anticipating the deception. The children assembled behind her in the entrance, silent, breath misting in the frigid air. Elena brought the wagon to a halt. "Morning, Ms. Reeves." "Miss Thorne." She didn't shift from the porch. That's considerable provisions for a woman who was merely surveying yesterday. "Mentioned I'd return." "You did." She still didn't shift. "People declare things." "I'm not people." Elena descended, boots crunching on the icy earth. "You desire this food or not, because my horses are frigid and my back isn't what it once was." For an extended moment, Catherine simply regarded her. Then something transformed in her expression. Not gentleness precisely, but the sharp edge softened slightly. "Marcus." "Daniel, come assist with unloading." She stepped aside as 2 of the older boys rushed past her. "Flour belongs in the rear pantry. Apples in the cellar where it's cool. Salt pork." "I understand where it belongs," Rowan stated, already hoisting a sack over his shoulder. "Been storing provisions since before you existed. Then you won't require my guidance." But there was something resembling a smile at the corner of her mouth. The children swarmed the wagon like insects on sweetness, small palms reaching for sacks and crates, passing them along a line into the structure. Elena found herself standing amid it all, uncertain what to do with her hands. "Miss Thorne." She turned. Lily Grace stood behind her. That identical direct stare, that identical unsettling manner of looking through her instead of at her. "You returned," she stated. "Told you I would. Numerous people tell me things." She angled her head. "You're different, though. I can sense it." "That's so." "MHM." She reached up and claimed a small sack of apples from the wagon, had to stretch on her toes to grasp it. Elena noticed her left hand then, 2 fingers absent, the stumps healed over smooth and pale. She caught Elena looking. "Frostbite, first winter here. Don't feel sorry for me." "Wasn't planning to." "Good." She secured the sack under her arm. "'Cause I don't need sorry. I need people who remain." She walked toward the building before Elena could respond. Rowan appeared at her elbow. "That one's remarkable." "Yeah." Elena watched her vanish inside. "She is." By midday, the wagon was emptied and Elena was still present. She hadn't planned to linger. Figured she'd deliver the supplies and ride back to the ranch, back to the quietness, back to the vacant chairs. But somehow her hands discovered work. A shutter hanging askew on its hinges, a plank loose on the porch steps, a draft penetrating through a window that required fabric stuffed in the gaps. "You don't have to do that, Miss Thorne." Catherine stood in the doorway, observing her nail the shutter back into position. "I know." She drove another nail. "Doing it regardless." "Why?" The hammer paused mid-swing. She didn't glance at her. "How's this frigid? Kids fall ill." "Kids fall ill, some don't recover." "Isn't complicated." "That's not what I inquired." She finished the nail, tested the shutter, swung it open, swung it closed. "Solid now." Maybe I just want to be useful, Ms. Reeves. That permitted. She didn't respond. Just watched her move to the next damaged thing. The children watched, too. They didn't comprehend what to make of her, this tall, weathered woman with the stern face and the gentle hands. Daniel, the 7-year-old who'd inquired about wealth, followed her like a shadow. You truly own 1,000 cows. 3,000. That's numerous cows. It is. You ever named them? Elena paused, a plank in her hands. Can't say I have. I'd name them. Every single one. Daniel scratched his nose. I'd call the first one Honey, 'cause I like honey. Something fractured in Elena's chest, small like ice fragmenting on a pond in early spring. Honey's a fine name. You think so? I do. Daniel grinned, gap-toothed, wide, pure, and ran off to inform the others that the wealthy woman approved his cow name. Lily Grace appeared then, holding 2 tin cups. Ms. Reeves said to bring you coffee. It isn't quality coffee, but it's warm. Elena accepted the cup. Thank you. You're welcome. She didn't depart. Just stood there holding her own cup with her 3-fingered hand, observing Elena drink. You're remaining a long duration. Got numerous broken things to repair. There's always broken things. You can't repair them all. Can attempt. She contemplated this. Sipped her coffee. Made a face at the bitterness. My mama used to say that. Can't fix everything, Lily, but you can attempt. And she repaired numerous things before she died. She sounds like a fine woman. She was. Lily Grace looked down at her cup. She told me my daddy was a fine man, too. Said he loved me but couldn't carry me. You ever hear something like that? The question struck Elena like a hammer blow. She took a prolonged drink of coffee to conceal whatever displayed on her face. Can't say I have. I think about it sometimes. What it signifies, couldn't carry me. She looked up at her. You think a person can love someone and still abandon them? 20 years of silence compressed against the back of her throat. 20 years of a small wooden horse in her pocket. 20 years of an empty chair. I think, she stated slowly, people do things they regret, things they can't undo, and they spend the remainder of their lives wishing they could. Lily Grace nodded like this made sense to her. That's sorrowful. It is. But it's truthful. She finished her coffee, handed Elena the empty cup. I prefer truthful over pleasant. Pleasant doesn't signify anything most of the time. And she walked away, leaving Elena standing there with 2 empty cups and a fracture in her chest that was expanding wider by the minute. Evening arrived early, the way it does in November. Elena sat in the orphanage kitchen, a 3rd cup of poor coffee in her hands, watching Catherine direct the supper preparations like a general commanding forces. The soup tonight was substantial. Real potatoes, real carrots, chunks of salt pork floating in the broth. The children ate like they'd never witnessed food before. Lily Grace sat across the lengthy table from her, not eating yet, watching the younger ones get their fill first. You should eat, Elena stated. Little ones first. That's the rule. Who made that rule? I did. She shrugged. Someone's got to. Catherine sat down beside Elena, her own bowl untouched. She does that every meal. Waits till the end. Sometimes there's nothing remaining. Then why permit her? You try stopping her. Catherine picked up her spoon, stirred the soup without eating. She's been here for years. Longest of any of them. The others, they arrive, they depart. Families claim them, or they run off, or she stopped. Lily Grace stays. Takes care of the young ones like they're her own blood. She's 9 years old. She's been 9 years old going on 40 since the day she arrived here. Catherine finally took a bite, chewed slowly. Her mother died of fever. Walked 3 miles through snow to bring Lily Grace here before she passed. Died on our doorstep. Elena set down her cup. The girl witnessed it happen. Held her mother's hand till it went cold. Catherine's voice was flat, matter of fact, the way people speak about things too painful to dress up with emotion. First thing she said to me after wasn't help or why. It was, "What can I do?" Across the table, Lily Grace was finally eating, spooning soup into her mouth with her 3-fingered hand, smiling at something one of the little ones said. Elena's hand went to her pocket. Catherine saw. Her eyes narrowed. "There's something you're not telling me, Miss Thorne." "There usually is." "That's not an answer." "I know." She stood up, abandoning the coffee, abandoning the warmth, walking out into the cold evening air where her breath could fog and freeze and vanish before anyone could decipher what was written in it. The snow had started falling, light, gentle, covering the ugly ground with something clean. Behind her, through the window, she could see Lily Grace helping the little ones clear their bowls. She was laughing at something. The sound shouldn't have been able to reach her through the glass. It did anyway. Lily Grace asked questions the way other children asked for food, like she'd starve without answers. And Elena Thorne, who'd evaded the truth for 20 years, found she couldn't evade a 9-year-old girl. 3 days transformed into a week. A week transformed into something Elena didn't have a name for. She told herself she was merely checking on things, ensuring the food held out, the firewood stayed stacked, the shutters didn't come loose again. Told herself any decent woman would do the same. But decent women didn't ride 7 miles in the frozen dark just to watch children eat breakfast. Decent women didn't sit on orphanage porches past sundown listening to the wind, waiting for a copper-haired girl to come ask her questions she couldn't answer. The town had started to talk. She heard it from Rowan, who heard it from the general store, who heard it from the blacksmith's wife. "They're saying you've gone soft, boss." Rowan was brushing down the horses in the orphanage stable, a converted shed that leaked in 3 places. "Saying the widow Reeves has got you under some kind of spell. People have nothing better to do than flap their gums. That's the truth of it." Rowan hung the brush on its nail. "But there's talk and there's talk. Some folks wondering why a woman with all you possess would spend her days fixing broken things in an orphanage. Let them wonder. I ain't the one wondering, boss." Rowan pulled his coat tighter. "I'm the one who's known you 30 years. I'm the one who knows what you carry in that pocket." Elena went still. "Ain't never inquired about it," Rowan continued, not looking at her. "Figured you'd tell me when you was ready. But I got eyes. I seen how you look at that little girl like she's a ghost and a blessing all wrapped up together." He finally met Elena's gaze. "Whatever you're searching for here, I hope you discover it." "I surely do." He walked out of the stable, leaving Elena alone with the horses in the cold and 20 years of silence. Lily Grace found her there an hour later. She had a way of appearing without sound, like she'd learned early that quietness kept you safe. "You're still here," she stated. "Still here." She climbed onto a hay bale, legs dangling, watching Elena oil a harness that didn't really need oiling. "Ms. Reeves says you possess the biggest ranch in the territory. One of them. She says you have a house with more rooms than we have children. Something like that. How come you're here then instead of there?" The question sat between them like a stone in still water. Elena kept working the oil into leather, kept her eyes on her hands. "House gets quiet," she stated finally. "Woman can only tolerate so much quiet. It's never quiet here." Lily Grace pulled her knees up to her chest. "Daniel talks in his sleep. Baby Anna cries most nights. Ms. Reeves snores. Don't tell her I said that. Wouldn't dream of it." I prefer the noise, though. Means I ain't alone. She rested her chin on her knees. You ever been alone, Miss Thorne? Real alone? I mean, not just by yourself, but alone inside where no one can reach. Elena's hand stopped moving. I was alone like that after Mama died, Lily Grace continued, her voice soft but steady. Felt like I was at the bottom of a well and everyone else was up at the top looking down, but no one could hear me holler. Took a long duration to climb out. How'd you do it? Started taking care of the little ones. Figured if I couldn't fix myself, maybe I could fix something else. And after a while, she shrugged. Well, I'm still climbing, but I can see the light now. The harness slipped from Elena's hands. She didn't retrieve it. You're too wise for 9 years old. You know that. Mama said that too. Lily Grace smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She said I was born old. Said God gave me extra soul to make up for the hard road ahead. Smart woman, your Mama. The smartest. She was quiet for a moment, watching her. Then can I ask you something, Miss Thorne? You've been asking me things all week. This one's different. She waited. Lily Grace reached into her coat pocket and pulled out something small. The wooden horse. She must have found it in the stable. Must have seen where Elena had set it down while working. Who was this for? The air went out of the stable. Elena stared at the wooden horse in Lily Grace's palm. Paint faded, edges worn smooth. Small enough to fit in a child's hand. Made to fit in a child's hand. Where'd you find that? On the workbench. You left it there when you was fixing the bridle. She turned it over careful, like she knew it was fragile even though it wasn't. It's real pretty. You can tell someone put a lot of love into making it. Lily Grace. Was it for someone? She looked up at her. Those eyes that saw too much. A little girl, maybe. It's got a girl's name carved on the bottom. Right here. See? Sarah. Elena's throat closed. Sarah's a nice name, Lily Grace stated. I knew a Sarah once. She got adopted by a family from Denver. She was real sweet. She held out the horse. Is Sarah your daughter, Miss Thorne? The word struck her like a bullet. Daughter. 20 years she'd avoided that word. 20 years she'd swallowed it back down every time it tried to climb up her throat. The words came out scraped raw. A long time ago. What happened to her? She should lie. Should take the horse and walk away and never return. Should do what she'd done every time someone got too close to the truth. Build the wall higher. Dig the moat deeper. Disappear behind the money and the land and the silence. But Lily Grace was looking at her with eyes that had already witnessed too much pain to be fooled by easy lies. Eyes that had watched her mother die on a doorstep. Eyes that deserved better than another adult who wouldn't give her a straight answer. I gave her away, Elena stated. The words fell into the silence like stones into a well. Her papa, my husband, Marcus, he died having her. Bled out before the doctor could arrive. And she stopped, started again. Every time I looked at that baby, I saw Marcus dying. Saw his face going pale. Heard his last breath. I couldn't. Her voice broke. She turned away, gripping the stable rail until her knuckles went white. A minister came through week after the funeral. Him and his wife on their way east. Good people. Kind people. They couldn't have children of their own. Elena stared at the wall, seeing nothing. I told myself she'd have a better life. Told myself I was doing right by her, giving her to folks who could look at her without seeing death. But that wasn't true. She paused. I don't know what's true anymore. She released the rail, turned back to face Lily Grace. I was scared. That's the truth of it. I was 28 years old and scared out of my mind, and I couldn't carry her. Just like. She stopped. Lily Grace's face had gone pale. Just like my daddy. Lily Grace. I didn't mean couldn't carry me. She was still holding the wooden horse, but her hands had started to tremble. That's what Mama said. He couldn't carry me. That ain't. Is that what happens? Her voice cracked, and for the first time, she sounded like what she was, a 9-year-old girl who'd lost everything. People have babies and then just give them away 'cause it's too hard, 'cause they're scared. Some people. Not all people. But some. She looked down at the horse. Some people make beautiful things for their babies and then just leave. I've regretted it every day of my life. Does that help? She looked up at her, tears streaming down her face. Does regretting make it better? No. Elena knelt down, bringing herself to her level. No, it don't. Nothing makes it better. Nothing except. Except what? She didn't have an answer. Didn't know if there was one. Lily Grace wiped her face with her 3-fingered hand, sniffed, looked at the wooden horse for a long moment. Then she held it out to her. You should keep this, she stated. Until you find her. Until you can give it to her yourself. Elena took the horse. Her hands were shaking worse than Lily Grace's. Miss Thorne. Lily Grace stood up, straightening her patched dress with dignity that belied her years. If you ever do find her, don't wait. Don't be scared. Just tell her you're sorry. She walked out of the stable, leaving Elena kneeling in the hay, holding a 20-year-old toy made for a daughter she'd given away. Outside, the wind had picked up. The sky was going dark. A storm was coming. The worst truths don't come from enemies. They come from the people who nearly loved you and learned they couldn't. The blizzard hit Coldridge territory like divine fury. 3 days of white blindness, wind screaming off the mountains, snow piling in drifts that swallowed fences and buried roads. Elena stayed at the ranch, couldn't risk the horses on roads she couldn't see. She stood at the window of her empty house, watching the storm erase the world, and thought about a copper-haired girl 7 miles away. She knew now. Knew what Elena was, what she'd done. She'd seen it in her face before she walked out of the stable, the way she looked at her differently. Not hate exactly. Something worse. Recognition. She'd looked at her and seen her own father, the ghost who couldn't carry her. And Elena didn't know if that made them closer or ruined everything. Rowan brought coffee on the second morning. Didn't say much. Didn't have to. Storm's breaking tonight, he stated. Be clear by dawn. I know. You going back out there? Elena didn't answer. She's a resilient little thing, Rowan continued. Whatever you told her, whatever she knows now, she ain't the kind to break easy. Maybe I am. Rowan set down the coffee pot. Boss, I've been with you through 2 droughts, a range war, and that mess with the railroad men. I seen you stare down armed rustlers without blinking. You ain't breakable. You're just bent. He headed for the door. Bent things can straighten. Broken things can't. Remember that. The storm died that night, leaving behind a world scrubbed white and silent. Elena saddled her horse before the sun cleared the mountains. The orphanage looked smaller somehow, huddled against the snow like a wounded animal. Smoke rose from the chimney. Good smoke, thick and steady. The firewood had held. Elena tied her horse and walked to the door. Her hand hesitated over the wood. 3 days ago, she'd told a 9-year-old girl the worst thing she'd ever done. 3 days of blizzard silence to wonder if she'd ever look at her the same. The door opened before she could knock. Catherine Reeve stood in the frame. Her face was stone. Miss Thorne. No warmth, no welcome. I wondered if you'd come back. Storm kept me. Did it? Not a question. She stepped aside, but barely, making Elena squeeze past her into the hall. Lily Grace told me. About your daughter. About what you did. Elena stopped. The warmth of the building suddenly felt like a trap. She told me everything, Catherine continued. How you gave away your own child because you couldn't bear to look at her. How you've been carrying around a toy for 20 years like that makes up for abandoning an infant. Her voice was quiet, controlled, and all the more cutting for it. I knew there was something you weren't telling me. I didn't expect it to be that. Ms. Reeves. I let you into this house. I let you near these children. Children who've already been abandoned once. Children who were just starting to trust you. She stepped closer, and Elena saw the fury banked behind her eyes. Do you have any idea what you've done? I told her the truth. You told her that mother's leave. That's what you told her. You confirmed every fear that child has carried since she was 5 years old. Catherine's hands were shaking. She's barely eaten in 3 days. Barely spoken. She sits by the window and watches the road like she's waiting for someone who's never going to arrive. And now she's waiting for you to leave, too. Because that's what mothers do, isn't it? That's what you taught her. The word struck Elena like physical blows. She took a step back. I didn't mean. What did you mean, Miss Thorne? Catherine advanced on her. Did you think you could come here, play savior, tell that child your tragic story, and then ride off into the sunset feeling better about yourself? Did you think she was here to heal you? No. Then what? What are you doing here? I don't know. The words tore out of her, echoing in the narrow hall. I don't know, all right? I saw her standing there in that doorway the first day, looking at me like she could see every rotten thing I ever did. And I couldn't walk away. I tried. I got on my horse and I tried to ride home and I couldn't do it. That's not an answer. It's the only one I possess. They stood there, squared off in the dim hallway, breath visible in the cold air that seeped through the walls. Somewhere deeper in the building, children's voices murmured. Normal sounds, safe sounds. Everything Elena had tried to build here, crumbling. I received a letter, Catherine stated finally. Week before you showed up. From a church in Philadelphia. Reverend Whitmore. He ministers to families passing through. Been doing it 40 years. She reached into her apron, pulled out a folded paper. He wrote to every orphanage in the territory, looking for a woman named Sarah Thorne, or whatever name she might go by now. Elena went cold. He baptized her as an infant, Catherine continued. November 1867. The family that took her, the minister and his wife, they died of cholera in 71. The girl was passed to relatives. Lost track of her after that. She held out the letter. He's been trying to find her for years. Said her real mother might still be alive, might be looking for her. Elena couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I wrote back this morning before the storm cleared. Catherine's eyes were hard. Told him I might know who the mother is. Told him if he has any information about the girl, where she went, what happened to her, he should send it to me. Not to you. Why? Because I don't trust you, Ms. Thorne. I don't trust that you won't run the moment things get difficult. I don't trust that you won't break that child's heart even worse than it's already broken. She folded her arms. And because Lily Grace is mine to protect. Not yours. You lost that right 20 years ago. The words should have made her angry. Should have made her argue, defend herself, explain. But all Elena felt was the cold spreading through her chest, freezing everything it touched. "Can I see her?" "No. Ms. Reeves. She doesn't want to see you." Catherine softened just slightly. "She told me this morning. Said she needs time to think. Said she's not sure if she can look at you right now without seeing her own daddy's face." Elena closed her eyes. "I told her that wasn't fair," Catherine continued. "Told her you're not the man who left her. But she's 9 years old, Miss Thorne. She doesn't know how to separate the two. All she knows is that father's leave. And you proved her right. I haven't left. Not yet." Catherine moved aside, gesturing toward the door. "But you will. They always do. The ones who come with wagons and promises. The ones who fix shutters and bring firewood. They stay until it's difficult and then they're gone. I've seen it 100 times." Elena walked to the door, stopped with her hand on the frame. "I'm not going anywhere, Ms. Reeves." Words. "Then watch me." She stepped out into the cold. The sun was climbing now, light glaring off the snow, and as she reached her horse, she looked up at the orphanage windows. Lily Gray stood in one of them. 3rd floor, corner room. Her face was pale behind the glass, her breath fogging the pain. She wasn't smiling, wasn't waving. Just watching. Elena raised one hand. Not a wave. Just an acknowledgement. "I see you. I'm here." Lily Grace lifted her 3-fingered hand, pressed it flat against the glass. Then she turned away. And the window was empty. Rowan was waiting at the end of the road, horses stamping in the cold. "How'd it go?" Elena mounted up. Her chest felt like someone had reached in and rearranged everything, leaving nothing where it belonged. "She won't see me." "The girl?" "Both of them." She gathered the reins. Ms. Reeves received a letter from a minister in Philadelphia. Someone who might know what happened to Sarah. Rowan went quiet. "She's not going to tell me what's in it. Not until she trusts me." Elena looked back at the orphanage one more time. The window was still empty. And Lily Grace thinks I'm just like her daddy. The one who couldn't carry her. "Are you?" The question hung in the frozen air. "I don't know," Elena stated. "But I'm about to find out." She turned her horse toward home. Behind her, the orphanage sat in the snow like a wound that wouldn't close, full of children waiting for someone to stay, and one copper-haired girl who'd stopped believing anyone would. The sky was clear. The storm was over. But Elena knew the real storm was just beginning. Some women lose their families to war or sickness. Elena Thorne lost hers to fear. And fear, unlike death, never stops collecting its debt. A week passed, then 2. Elena came to the orphanage every day. Brought supplies, fixed things that broke, chopped wood until her shoulders screamed and her hands bled through her gloves. Catherine let her work, but wouldn't let her inside. She was a hired hand now, nothing more. Useful for her labor, tolerated for her money, trusted with nothing that mattered. Lily Gray stayed invisible. Sometimes Elena caught a glimpse of copper hair in a window, a shadow moving behind frosted glass, but she never came out, never waved. The hand pressed against the window that first day had been the last time she'd acknowledged her at all. "She's punishing you," Rowan stated one evening, watching Elena stack firewood in the dark. Or maybe she's punishing herself. Hard to tell with young ones. She's got every right. Didn't say she didn't. Just saying it can't go on forever. Either she forgives you or she don't. But this in between, Rowan shook his head. It'll kill you both. Elena drove the axe into the chopping block. Left it there. What am I supposed to do? She won't see me. Ms. Reeves won't let me near her. I can't force a child to forgive me. No, but you can show her you ain't going nowhere. Rowan pulled out his tobacco pouch, started rolling a cigarette. That's what she's waiting for. She's testing you, seeing how long before you give up and ride off like everyone else. I'm not giving up. Then don't. Rowan lit the cigarette, smoke curling in the cold air. But don't expect it to be easy either. Trust is like a horse with a broken leg. Sometimes it heals. Sometimes you got to shoot it and start over with a new one. That's a hell of a metaphor. I'm a hell of a man. Rowan almost smiled. Go home, boss. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's another day of proving yourself. Elena went home. But she didn't sleep. She sat in her empty dining room, 8 chairs around a table built for a family that never existed, and stared at the wooden horse in her hands. Sarah. Her daughter. Somewhere out there. Alive or dead, happy or suffering. And she'd never know because she'd been too much of a coward to look. The letter. Catherine had the letter. Information from Philadelphia, from a minister who'd been searching for years. She dangled it in front of her like a carrot before a starving mule, then snatched it away. She could demand it. Could threaten to cut off the supplies, the money, the firewood. Could use her wealth like a weapon the way women like her always did. But that would prove Catherine right. That would prove Lily Grace right. That would make her exactly the woman they thought she was. Someone who only helped when it cost her nothing. Who ran the moment things got difficult. She set the wooden horse on the table, looked at it there, small and alone, surrounded by empty chairs. I'm sorry, she whispered to no one. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough. The fire crackled, the wind moaned outside, and Elena Thorne sat in the dark with her guilt, waiting for a dawn that felt like it would never come. It came anyway. Dawn always does. December 23rd. 2 days before Christmas. Elena rode to the orphanage through fresh snow, breath fogging, sky the color of old bone. She'd brought gifts this time. Nothing fancy, just practical things. New mittens for the children, knitted by the women at the church in town. A bolt of warm flannel for making clothes. A sack of peppermint sticks because even orphans deserve something sweet at Christmas. Catherine met her at the door. Her face was different today. Not softer exactly, but less hard. Something had shifted. Miss Thorne. She stepped aside. Come in. Elena blinked. I said come in before you freeze to death on my porch and I have to explain to the sheriff why there's a dead rancher in my yard. Elena entered. The warmth of the building wrapped around her like a blanket, and she realized how cold she'd been. Not just today, but for weeks. For years. For her whole damn life. Lily Grace wants to see you, Catherine stated. Her heart stopped. She does? Don't make me repeat myself. Catherine was already walking down the hall. She's in the kitchen helping with the Christmas bread. I told her you were coming. She paused at the kitchen door, turned back. I also told her about the letter. What? The letter from Philadelphia. I read it to her last night. Catherine's eyes were unreadable. She deserved to know. And frankly, so do you. But I wanted her to hear it first. What does it say? Catherine didn't answer, just pushed open the kitchen door. Lily Grace stood at the long wooden table, flour on her hands, dough in front of her. She looked up when Elena entered. Her face was pale, eyes red-rimmed, but she wasn't crying. She looked like she'd cried herself out days ago and had nothing left. Miss Thorne, she stated. Just that. Her name? Lily Grace. Catherine slipped out, closing the door behind her. The kitchen was warm, smelling of yeast and wood smoke, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Ms. Reeves told me about the letter, Lily Grace stated finally. About your daughter. About what happened to her. Elena couldn't breathe. What did it say? Lily Grace looked down at the dough, her three-fingered hand pressed into it, leaving a mark. The minister who took her, Reverend Whitmore, he and his wife died when she was 4. Cholera. Your daughter got passed to his wife's sister in St. Louis. She paused. They weren't kind people, Ms. Thorne. The letter said, it said she ran away when she was 12. Disappeared. Nobody knows where she went. The word struck Elena like a physical blow. She grabbed the edge of the table to keep from collapsing. Reverend Whitmore, the one who wrote the letter, he's been looking for her ever since. Feels responsible, I guess. Guilty. Lily Grace finally looked up at her. He spent 15 years trying to find a girl he only knew for 4. Because he baptized her. Because he made a promise to God to watch over her. Elena's legs gave out. She sank onto a kitchen stool, head in her hands. She's alive, she whispered. Or she was. 12 years old, and she ran away, and nobody knows what happened after that. She could be anywhere. Lily Grace's voice was quiet but steady. Could be dead. Could be married with children of her own. Could be living on the street somewhere or in another orphanage. Or... Stop. Elena's voice cracked. Please. Lily Grace walked around the table, stood in front of her, her flour-dusted hands hung at her sides, and she looked at her the way she had that first day, straight through, seeing everything. I was angry at you, she stated. When you told me about her. About giving her away. I thought you were just like my daddy. Someone who made a baby and then threw her away like she didn't matter. Lily Grace. Let me finish. She took a breath. I spent 3 days hating you. Hating my daddy. Hating every adult who ever left a child behind. And then Ms. Reeves read me that letter, and I realized something. She knelt down so she was eye level with her, 9 years old, flower on her cheek, eyes ancient with understanding. You didn't throw her away because she didn't matter. You threw her away because she mattered too much. Because every time you looked at her, you saw the man you loved dying, and you couldn't carry that. You just couldn't. Tears spilled down Elena's face. She didn't try to stop them. That don't make it right, Lily Grace continued. What you did, it hurt her. It hurt her bad. She grew up without a mama. Got passed to mean people. Ran away into God knows what. That's on you, Ms. Thorne. That's going to be on you forever. I know. But she reached out and took Elena's hand, her three-fingered grip surprisingly strong. But you didn't stop loving her. You carried that little horse around for 20 years. You built a whole life that was empty 'cause she wasn't in it. You punished yourself every single day. She squeezed her hand. That don't make it right. But it makes it real. It makes you human. Elena broke. 20 years of silence. 20 years of frozen grief. 20 years of carrying a wooden horse and eating alone at a table built for 8. It all came pouring out of her in great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. She wept like she hadn't wept since the night Marcus died in her arms. Since the morning she handed her daughter to strangers and watched them ride away. Lily Grace didn't let go of her hand. She held on through all of it, this tiny girl with her missing fingers and her 2 old eyes anchoring her to the world when everything else was falling apart. When the sobs finally quieted, she spoke again. I forgive you, Ms. Thorne. Elena looked at her through blurred eyes. What? I forgive you. Not for her, that ain't mine to give. But for me. She smiled, small and sad. I was so scared you were going to leave. Like my daddy. Like everyone. But you didn't. You came back every day. Even when I wouldn't see you. Even when Ms. Reeves treated you like dirt. You just kept coming. I couldn't stay away. I know. She stood up, still holding her hand. And that's how I know you're different. My daddy, whoever he was, he never came back. Not once. But you did. Over and over. And that matters, Ms. Thorne. That matters more than you know. Elena wiped her face with her free hand. Took a shaky breath. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Probably not. Lily Grace shrugged. But I'm giving it anyway. Mama always said forgiveness ain't about deserving. It's about letting go of the rock so you don't drown. She released her hand, walked back to the bread dough, started kneading again like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just reached into Elena's chest and rearranged everything inside. Miss Thorne. Yeah? I think you should keep looking for her. For Sarah. Lily Grace pressed the dough flat, folded it over, pressed again. 15 years is a long time, but it ain't forever. And if that minister can keep looking after all this time, so can you. What if I find her and she hates me? Then at least you'll know. Lily Grace looked up at her. And at least she'll know you tried. That's more than most people get. The kitchen door opened. Catherine stood there, watching them both. Everything all right in here? Lily Grace smiled, the first real smile Elena had seen from her in weeks. Yes, Miss Thorne and I were just talking about Christmas bread. Catherine looked at Elena's tear-streaked face, at Lily Grace's flour-covered hands, at the space between them that had somehow become smaller. Christmas bread, she repeated. Right. But there was something in her eyes that might have been approval. Well, when you're done talking about bread, there's firewood that needs stacking. Yes, Elena stood up. Her legs were shaky, but they held. I'll get right on that. She walked past Catherine, paused at the door. Ms. Reeves. The letter. Could I, or would you let me read it? All of it? Catherine studied her for a long moment. Then she reached into her apron and pulled out the folded paper. Don't make me regret this. Elena took the letter, held it like it was made of glass. Thank you. She walked out into the cold, the letter burning in her pocket like a coal, and for the first time in 20 years, she felt something other than guilt. She felt hope. Solitude. The deepest prayers aren't words. They're the silence after you run out of ways to lie to yourself. Elena didn't go home that night. She rode out past the ranch, past the property lines, past the fence posts that marked the edge of everything she owned. The moon was high and full, turning the snow to silver, and her horse picked its way through the drifts without guidance, just moving, just going somewhere that wasn't the empty house with the empty chairs. The letter sat in her pocket like a live coal. She hadn't read it yet, not all of it. Couldn't bring herself to unfold it fully, to see the words that would make Sarah's suffering real in black ink on paper. She stopped at the old creek bed, frozen solid now, where Marcus had proposed to her 21 years ago. Summer then, wildflowers everywhere. She'd laughed when he dropped the ring in the tall grass, and they'd spent an hour on their knees looking for it. When she finally found it, she'd put it on herself because his hands were shaking too hard. You're a mess, Elena Thorne, he'd said. Good thing I love messes. She dismounted, stood at the edge of the frozen water. I made a mess of everything, she stated to the empty air. You'd be ashamed of me, Marcus. You'd look at what I did to our girl and you'd never forgive me. The wind answered. Nothing else. Elena pulled out the letter, unfolded it slowly, carefully, like it might crumble in her hands. The moonlight was bright enough to read by, and she forced her eyes to move across the words. Asterisk dear Ms. Reeves asterisk. Asterisk I write to you in hopes that you might assist in a matter that has weighed upon my conscience for many years. In November of 1867, I baptized an infant girl named Sarah Thorne, daughter of Elena and Marcus Thorne of Coldridge, Montana Territory. The child was given into the care of Reverend Jonathan Sterling and his wife Abigail, who were traveling east to minister in Pennsylvania. Reverend Sterling and Abigail perished of cholera in the spring of 1871. The child, then 4 years of age, was placed with Abigail's sister, Mrs. Constance Mitchell, and her husband in St. Louis. I regret to say that the Mitchells were not kind guardians. Reports reached me of neglect and harsh treatment, but by the time I was able to investigate, the girl had fled. She was 12 years old when she ran away. That was 15 years ago. I have searched for her ever since, following rumors and half-leads across 6 states. I have found nothing certain, only whispers. A girl matching her description was seen in Chicago in 1879. Another sighting in Kansas City in 1882. Then nothing. If her mother still lives, she deserves to know what became of her daughter. And if by some miracle she is found, she deserves to know that someone has been looking for her all this time. I remain in faith and hope. Reverend Harold Whitmore. First Methodist Church, Philadelphia. Elena read it twice, 3 times. Let the words sink into the frozen places inside her. 12 years old. She'd been 12 when she ran away from people who hurt her. 12 years old and alone in the world because her mother had been too broken to keep her. She sank to her knees in the snow, didn't feel the cold. I'm sorry. The words came out cracked, barely a whisper. God, Marcus, I'm so sorry. I thought I was giving her a better life. I thought she'd be safe. I thought she'd be loved. The moon hung overhead, indifferent. The stars burned in the black sky like accusations. I stopped looking, Elena continued, talking to her dead husband, to her lost daughter, to the God she'd stopped believing in 20 years ago. I got scared. Scared she was dead. Scared she was alive and hated me. So I stopped. Built my ranch, made my money, told myself it was too late. Told myself there was no point. Told myself she was better off not knowing the coward who threw her away. She pressed her hands into the snow, feeling the burn of it. But that was a lie. All of it. I didn't stop because it was hopeless. I stopped because I was weak. Because it was easier to carry the guilt than to face what I'd done. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled. The sound hung in the air, lonely and wild. Lily Grace forgave me today. Elena laughed, but there was no humor in it. 9 years old. Lost her mama. Never knew her daddy. Missing 2 fingers to frostbite. And she forgave me just like that. Said I wasn't like her father because I kept coming back. She looked up at the sky, at the stars her husband used to name for her back when they'd lie in the grass and dream about the future. But am I? Am I different, or am I just the same woman in different clothes? A coward who runs when things get difficult. The silence answered her. The terrible, holy silence of a winter night when the world holds its breath and waits for you to decide who you're going to be. Elena stayed on her knees until she couldn't feel them anymore. Then she stayed longer. Rowan found her at dawn. The old foreman had tracked her from the ranch, following hoof prints in the snow, and when he came upon Elena still kneeling at the frozen creek bed, he didn't say a word. Just dismounted, walked over, stood there. You trying to freeze to death? Maybe. Ain't going to help nobody. Not your girl. Not Lily Grace. Not yourself. Rowan pulled off his coat and dropped it around Elena's shoulders. Get up. I'm too numb. I can't feel my legs. I figured. Rowan grabbed her under the arms, hauled her upright. Lean on me. We'll get you to the horse. They stumbled together through the snow, Elena's frozen legs screaming back to life with every step. Rowan half carried her to the chestnut mare, boosted her into the saddle. "You read the letter," Rowan stated. "Not a question." "Yeah." "Bad." "She ran away. 12 years old. Been missing ever since." Rowan was quiet for a long moment. "Then you going to look for her?" Elena stared at the horizon where the sun was just beginning to turn the sky pink. "I spent 20 years not looking. 20 years hiding behind money and land and silence. 20 years letting fear make my choices for me." She turned to Rowan. "Lily Grace asked me if I was going to leave. Like everyone else. I told her I wasn't. Told her I was done running." "Were you lying?" "I don't know." Elena looked down at her hands, blue with cold, shaking, the same hands that had let go of her daughter 20 years ago. "But I know one thing. If I give up now, if I stop looking again, then Lily Grace was wrong about me. Then I am just like her daddy. A woman who couldn't carry the weight." "So what are you going to do?" The sun broke over the mountains, flooding the valley with golden light. The snow glittered like diamonds, like promises, like second chances nobody deserved but some people got anyway. "I'm going to write to Reverend Whitmore. Tell him I'm her mother. Tell him I want to help search." Elena gathered the reins. "And I'm going to give Lily Grace the Christmas she deserves. Not because it'll make up for anything. Not because she needs my charity. But because—" She stopped, tried to find the words. "Because she's the one who showed me I could still be a mother. Even now. Even after everything." She looked at Rowan. "She's not mine. I know that. But maybe being a mother isn't about blood. Maybe it's about showing up. Over and over. No matter what." Rowan nodded slowly. "Your husband would have liked that girl." "Yeah." Elena smiled, small and sad. "He would have." They rode back toward the ranch as the sun climbed higher. Two old companions on tired horses, shadows stretching long across the snow. And somewhere behind them, at the frozen creek where Marcus had proposed 21 years ago, the wind swept away the marks where Elena had knelt, erasing the evidence of a woman's long-delayed reckoning with herself, leaving only clean white snow and the promise of a new day. Elena Thorne had spent 20 years building walls. It took one 9-year-old girl 3 weeks to show her the door. Christmas Eve morning broke cold and clear, the kind of day that makes a woman believe in second chances, even when she doesn't deserve them. Elena was up before dawn. Hadn't slept much, couldn't sleep, not with everything churning inside her. She'd spent half the night at her desk, writing and rewriting a letter to Reverend Whitmore in Philadelphia. The final version sat on the table now, sealed and stamped, waiting to go out with the morning post. * Reverend Whitmore *. * My name is Elena Thorne. I am the mother of the girl you have been searching for. *. I gave her away in November of 1867, and I've regretted it every day since. I stopped looking for her 10 years ago because I was afraid. Afraid she was dead. Afraid she hated me. Afraid to face what my cowardice had cost her. I am no longer afraid. Or rather, I am still afraid, but I am done letting fear make my choices. I want to help you search. I have money and resources. I have time. I have a lifetime of debt to pay. Please write to me at the address below and tell me what you know, what you've tried, where you've looked. I will not rest until I find her or until I know for certain that she cannot be found. If she is alive, I want her to know that her mother never stopped loving her. That she carried a wooden horse in her pocket for 20 years waiting to give it to her. That she is sorry, more sorry than words can hold. And if she is dead, I want to find her grave. I want to kneel there and beg her forgiveness. I want to tell her that she deserved better. That her father would have been ashamed of me. That I am ashamed of myself. Asterisk. Asterisk whatever you need from me, it is yours. Asterisk. Asterisk Elena Thorne asterisk. She'd read it a dozen times. Changed words, put them back, changed them again. It wasn't enough. No letter could be enough. But it was a start. A first step after 20 years of standing still. Rowan knocked on the door at 7, stomping snow off his boots. Morning, boss. You look like hell. Feel like it, too. Elena handed him the letter. This goes to Philadelphia today. Whatever it costs. Rowan looked at the address, nodded. Consider it done. He tucked the letter inside his coat. What about the orphanage? That's where I'm headed. Got something I need to do. On Christmas Eve. Especially on Christmas Eve. Elena pulled on her coat, her hat, her gloves. Tell the boys to load up the big wagon. Everything we talked about last night. And Rowan. Yeah? Thank you. For finding me at the creek. For not letting me freeze. Rowan's weathered face softened. 30 years I've been pulling you out of messes, boss. Ain't about to stop now. He paused at the door. Whatever you're about to do, I hope it works. Me too. The ride to Coldridge took longer than usual. Elena had the big wagon this time, loaded down with more than just supplies. Blankets and food, yes, but also something else. Something she'd been planning since the night at the creek. The orphanage looked different in the Christmas Eve light. Someone had hung a wreath on the door, crooked, made of pine branches and red ribbon, clearly the work of small hands. Smoke rose thick and steady from the chimney. Through the windows, Elena could see movement, could hear the faint sound of children's voices raised in song. She tied the horses and walked to the door, knocked. Catherine opened it. Her face was guarded, but not hostile. Not like before. Something had changed since she'd given her the letter. Miss Thorne. Merry Christmas Eve. Ms. Reeves. Mind if I come in? She stepped aside. The children are practicing carols. Lily Grace is teaching the little ones Silent Night. Catherine paused. She's been different since you two talked. Lighter. Like something heavy got lifted off her. She lifted something off me, too. Catherine nodded slowly. I noticed. She led her down the hall toward the kitchen. I owe you an apology, Miss Thorne. I judged you harshly when I found out about your daughter. Thought you were just another wealthy woman trying to buy her way into heaven. Maybe I was. At first. Maybe. Catherine stopped walking, turned to face her. But a woman who's just buying forgiveness doesn't kneel in the snow all night. Doesn't come back day after day when no one will let her through the door. Doesn't look at a child like Lily Grace the way you look at her. How do I look at her? Like she's the answer to a question you've been asking for 20 years. Catherine's eyes were bright. I don't know if you'll ever find your Sarah. I hope you do. But I want you to know, whatever happens, you've been good for Lily Grace. You've shown her that not all mothers leave. Elena's throat tightened. That means more than you know. I expect it does. Catherine resumed walking. Now come on. She'll want to see you. Lily Grace was in the main room, surrounded by children. She stood on a wooden crate so the little ones could see her, conducting with her three-fingered hand, leading them through Silent Night with the patience of someone twice her age. Sleep in heavenly peace. The children's voices were thin but earnest, and Lily Grace smiled as they hit the final note. A real smile, not the guarded one Elena had seen before. When she looked up and saw Elena standing in the doorway, the smile didn't fade. It grew. "Miss Thorne." She hopped off the crate. "You came. Said I would." "I know, but it's Christmas Eve. Figured you might have fancy rancher things to do." "Nothing fancy about me." Elena knelt down, bringing herself to her level. "Can I talk to you? Private-like." Lily Grace glanced at Catherine, who nodded. "Go on. I'll finish with the little ones." They walked out to the porch, where the cold air bit at their faces and the snow sparkled in the late morning sun. Lily Grace pulled her thin coat tighter, and Elena made a mental note, new coat, first thing after Christmas. "What did you want to talk about?" Elena took a breath, reached into her pocket, pulled out the wooden horse. "I made this 20 years ago for a daughter I was too scared to keep. I told myself I'd give it to her someday. When I found her." She turned it over in her hands. "I don't know if I ever will find her. I hope so. I'm going to try. But even if I do—" She looked at Lily Grace, at her copper hair and her two old eyes and her three-fingered hand that had held hers while she wept. "Even if I do find her, this horse wasn't just meant for her. It was meant for the daughter I was supposed to be, the mother I should have become." She held it out. "I'd like you to have it." Lily Grace stared at the horse, didn't take it. "Miss Thorne, I can't. I'm not finished." Elena swallowed hard. "Yesterday I went to Judge Harrison's office. Filed some papers. Legal papers." Her voice shook. "I want to adopt you, Lily Grace. I want to give you my name, my home, everything I should have given Sarah." The words hung in the frozen air. "I'm not asking you to replace her. I'm not asking you to forget your mama or stop wondering about your real daddy. I'm just asking." Her voice broke. "I'm asking if you'll let me be your mother. If you'll let me try." Lily Grace's face crumbled. Tears spilled down her cheeks, catching the light. "You mean it? You're not just saying it." "I mean it more than I've ever meant anything." Elena's own eyes were wet. "I'm done running, Lily Grace. I'm done being scared. I want to be the mother who stays." She threw herself into her arms. Elena caught her, held her, felt her small body shake with sobs against her chest. Her hand cradled the back of her head, and she realized she was crying too, both of them weeping on the orphanage porch while the snow fell and the children sang inside and the whole world held its breath. "Yes," Lily Grace whispered into her coat. "Yes, I'll let you be my mama." Elena closed her eyes, held her tighter. "Thank you," she breathed. "Thank you for giving me another chance." Lily Grace pulled back, wiping her face with her three-fingered hand. She looked at the wooden horse, still in Elena's grip. "Is that really for me?" "It was always for you." She pressed it into her palm. "I just didn't know it yet." She held it up, examining it in the light. The faded paint, the worn edges. 20 years of grief and hope and waiting. Small enough to fit in a child's hand. "It's beautiful," she stated. "So are you." Elena stood up, offering her hand. "Come on. Let's go tell Ms. Reeves. And then, if you want, I'd like to take you home." Lily Grace took her hand, squeezed it. "I'd like that too, Mama." Mama. The word struck her like sunlight after a lifetime of darkness. Mama. She'd waited 20 years to hear it, and it was worth every single day. The dinner bell rang at Coldridge Mission for the first time in a year. This time, there was food on the table. And for the first time in 20 years, Elena Thorne wasn't eating alone. Christmas Day. The house that had held nothing but silence for 2 decades now held laughter. Children's voices echoed off walls that had forgotten what joy sounded like. Small feet pounded up and down the stairs. Somewhere in the kitchen, pots clanged and Catherine Reeves's voice rose above the chaos, directing traffic like a general commanding the happiest army in Montana. Elena stood in the doorway of the dining room, watching. 24 people sat at the table she'd built for 8. Extra chairs borrowed from the church, from the general store, from neighbors who'd heard what the wealthy rancher was doing and wanted to help. The children from Coldridge Mission, all 23 of them, crowded together on benches, elbows bumping, faces bright. Rowan sat at the far end, showing Daniel how to arm wrestle. Catherine presided over the head nearest the kitchen, making sure plates stayed full. And Lily Grace sat at Elena's right hand. The place where Marcus should have Saturday. The place that had been empty for 20 years. The wooden horse stood on the table beside her plate, guarding her food like a tiny sentinel. "Mama." Lily Grace tugged her sleeve. "You going to stand there all day or you going to sit down and eat?" "Mama." The word still struck her like light through a window. She didn't think she'd ever get used to it. Didn't think she wanted to. Just looking, she stated. Taking it in. Taking what in? This. She gestured at the room. The noise. The warmth. The chaos of 24 people sharing a meal. Ain't never had a Christmas like this. Ain't never had a. She stopped, swallowed. Family. Lily Grace's hand found hers, squeezed. You got one now. She sat down. Catherine called for quiet. The children settled, more or less, elbows still bumping, but voices dropping to whispers. She looked around the table at the faces young and old, at the food piled high, at the woman who'd made it all possible sitting with tears in her eyes and a 9-year-old girl holding her hand. Miss Thorne. Catherine's voice was formal, but her eyes were soft. Would you say Grace? Elena froze. She hadn't prayed in 20 years. Hadn't spoken to God since the night Marcus died. Had spent 2 decades building walls between herself and anything holy because she couldn't bear to ask forgiveness from a God who'd taken everything. But Lily Grace was looking at her. The children were looking at her. And somewhere, maybe her husband was looking too. She bowed her head. Lord, the word came out rough, rusty from disuse. I ain't talked to you in a long time. Figured you didn't want to hear from a woman like me. Figured I didn't deserve to ask for anything. The room was silent. Even the smallest children had gone still. But I'm asking now. Not for me. For them. She looked up at the faces around the table. The orphans who'd lost everything. The woman who'd given her life to caring for them. The old foreman who'd pulled her out of more messes than she could count. Thank you for this food. Thank you for this family. Thank you for, her voice broke. Thank you for second chances. For people who forgive us even when we don't deserve it. For children who teach old women how to be human again. Lily Grace's hand tightened on hers. And thank you for my daughter. Both of them. Elena closed her eyes. Wherever Sarah is, Lord, keep her safe. Help me find her. And if I can't, if she's somewhere I can't reach, tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I never stopped loving her. Tell her that her mother finally learned how to stay. She opened her eyes, wiped her face. Amen. Amen. The room echoed. Some voices strong, some trembling, some barely a whisper. Then Daniel broke the silence. Can we eat now? I'm starving. Laughter erupted. The spell broke, but gently, like ice melting in spring. Plates were passed, food was served, and the room filled with the sound of forks and chatter and joy. Lily Grace leaned close to Elena. That was a good prayer, Mama. First one in 20 years. Then it was extra good. She picked up the wooden horse, turned it over in her hands. I've been thinking about what you said. About your Sarah. About how you're going to keep looking. I am. Already wrote to the Reverend in Philadelphia. I know. Lily Grace set the horse down carefully. I want to help. When I'm older. I want to help you find her. You don't have to do that. I know I don't have to. She looked at her with those two old eyes, those eyes that had seen too much pain and too much loss and had somehow kept believing anyway. But she's my sister now, ain't she? If you're my mama, then she's my sister. And sisters look out for each other. Elena couldn't speak. Could only nod. Besides, Lily Grace continued, a small smile playing at her lips, I figure if I can teach Daniel to sing A Silent Night without going flat, I can do just about anything. The laugh that came out of Elena surprised her. It was rusty, unpracticed, but real. She hadn't laughed like that in, she couldn't remember how long. I believe you can, Lily Grace. I truly do. The meal went on. Stories were told. Rowan recounted the time Elena's horse threw her into a river and she came up with a fish in her hat. Catherine talked about her late husband, about the dreams they'd had, about how the orphanage had become her way of keeping those dreams alive. The children interrupted with questions and jokes and the endless, beautiful noise of young lives being lived. And Elena sat in the middle of it. Surrounded by warmth. Surrounded by family. The empty chair beside her finally filled. Later, after the meal, after the dishes were cleared and the children were dozing by the fire, Lily Grace found Elena on the porch. She was looking out at the snow, at the stars coming out one by one, at the world that suddenly seemed bigger and brighter than it had in 20 years. What are you thinking about? Lots of things. She made room for her on the bench. Lily Grace sat, pulling her new coat tight, the coat Elena had bought her, the first of many things she planned to give her. Thinking about how different this Christmas is from last year. What did you do last Christmas? Ate alone. Went to bed early. Tried not to think about, she stopped. Tried not to think. Lily Grace nodded. I remember last Christmas too. Potato soup. Ms. Reeves tried to make it special. Put some herbs in it, but she shrugged. It was still just soup. And we were still just orphans. You're not orphans anymore. No. She smiled up at her. I guess we're not. They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars multiply. The cold was sharp but clean, and neither of them moved to go inside. Mama. Yeah? Why'd you come that first day? To the orphanage? I mean, before you knew me. Before any of this. Elena thought about it. Thought about the empty table, the 8 chairs, the wagon full of food that was supposed to ease her conscience. I told myself I was being charitable. Doing my Christian duty. Helping folks less fortunate. She shook her head. But that was a lie. Same lie I'd been telling myself for 20 years. What's the truth? She looked at her copper hair and her 3-fingered hand and her eyes that saw everything. I didn't come to feed the hungry, Lily Grace. I came because I was starving. She considered this, nodded slowly. Well, she leaned against her arm, small and warm and solid. You ain't starving no more. No. Elena put her arm around her, pulled her close. No, I ain't. Inside, someone, Daniel probably, started singing Silent Night again, off-key and joyful. Other voices joined in. The sound drifted through the windows, mixing with the cold air and the starlight. Lily Grace looked up at her. Merry Christmas, Mama. And Elena Thorne, the richest woman in Coldridge Territory, the loneliest woman in Montana, the mother who'd finally learned how to stay, looked down at her daughter and smiled. Merry Christmas, sweetheart. The stars burned overhead. The snow lay silent and clean. And in a house built for a family that never came, a family had finally arrived.